My name is Alli. I currently am the relief director and also head our CPR first aid training team. I've been with RTR since we became RTR in 1989. Both my parents were educators. My parents were the family in town where if a kid got in trouble and couldn't go home, that kid could come to our house. I'm the oldest of 6. Vacations, my parents were insane. We camped. We always camped, and they always let each kid bring us another friend their age. I guess it's easier with a dozen under 21-year-old kids. I'm not sure I always agreed, but that opened the door for teaching many things to many different people. Back then, we called people with intellectual disabilities educable or trainable. Nobody really believed they'd ever learn anything on their own. I think that planted a seed of wanting to help people learn as much as they could. Having grown up during the 60s, I watched the whole integration and participated in integrating people of color, which we haven't succeeded in yet. But I've gone on to be involved with other acceptance-pushing jaunts to help people be accepted because of their religion, their sexuality, whatever they identify as. And those battles are still going on, and they were exciting as a kid. I still find them exciting. When I moved here from New York State, I had just turned down an offer to run a program with 15 individuals living in one group home. Staff were hired 24/7 as house parents, and other staff came in, but with 15 people, they were only having 2 people on duty. I can't imagine us doing that except in a crisis. And I think when your staffing ratios are higher, it allows for much more individualized attention, and it allows the teacher to help the person see what we're trying to teach, what they need to learn. And it often allows us to see what our guys have to teach us. The population since I came has changed dramatically. They had just started pulling people out of state schools when I started here in '81. Now, most of our referrals come from their homes as they turn 22. So somebody who's lived in a state institution for 40, 50 years of their life, coming back out into a community setting has many challenges for them. It probably seems really crazy and not as safe as they must have felt in some ways. But most people pretty quickly adjust and learn to test the limits that people are setting on them. It's actually a lot of fun watching our folks ace things and become much more independent. Many people come and go in this field, and so the professionalism in our relationships with the people we serve protects them in some ways, because they'll invest their life in you while you're here, and then you walk out the door, and more people than not never follow up on oh, I'll come back and visit. Many times our staff now are here on work visas from another country. A couple of the men I've worked with from other countries clearly have defined women's work, even in this job. They're not doing those dishes, they're not cleaning. But I also see a lot of people who come in with more respect and concern about their elders. Many of them have lived in a multi-generational setting for some, if not all, of their lives. And so I think that breeds more respect and caring about the different generations. The house I worked in Milton for many years, the majority of my staff was new to America. And so my people there, none of them cooked regularly, the people living in the group home, but they got exposed to all sorts of foods from different countries. So I think we try hard to be teaching all the time. I do think that's always been something I've heard from Chris and Sue, but now it's being talked about much more openly with many more staff.
So multiculturalism, has that made dinner more than pizza?
Oh, it sure has. The house up in Milton, I had 13 full-time staff when we had everybody on board, which wasn't often. And I had a nice group of relief staff that worked every week. And so once a month, instead of a daytime staff meeting, we had a staff meeting in the evening while the guys were home. And it always started with a sharing of food that everyone brought from their homes, whether it was a different culture or not, it usually was. And that meal was shared with the people who lived in the house. And then we'd do some time doing our staff meeting, but it was also a celebration of all the staff that cared about those folks. In the beginning, when we switched from Cushing and St. Coletta's, I think we had 9 houses. Now we have, I think, 41. It's someplace around that. Back then, we had no independent people living. Now we have many. And we had a couple of staffed apartments because in the early 80s, the state was really pushing for people to go as far as they could. And sometimes going from living in a state school to living in my own apartment, that's a pretty big jump. And we have to give people time to grow into that change. But from the beginning, I've always felt like we worked hard to put the individuals first. And I think there's an amazing awareness of how important all of our staff are. Yeah, we've got some people in this building who have years of knowledge and experience, but there are not enough of us to do what this agency does. I think we've always cared a lot about our staff. I feel like there are many times when if I go and talk to Sue or Chris, because I have a staff in crisis, we come up with some way to help. And I so value the caring this agency does about its staff. I think if we are diligent about appreciating staff, not only with tangibles, but with reinforcement and praise for the job they're doing, we see more interactive care with the individuals, and I think more fostering growth than just trying to get through a list of things that needs to be done today, which is always better for the guys. They feel respected and cared about. I feel so blessed to have fallen into this job. When I started, I was relief. And I had worked in a secondary education classroom for kids with intellectual disabilities. It was okay, but it didn't fulfill so much of, I couldn't give as much to those kids with a curriculum and a teacher, and we were isolated. This has allowed me to be in the community with people that I enjoy spending time with. And I think that's one of the things we have to do. If we want our world to change, we have to help people see it in a different way.